I'm back to snapping, gamers. After a much needed 2 month break, I've logged over double-digit hours playing some Marvel Snap on my live stream in the last couple of days, and I'm back to Infinite. I'm going to be working it into my regular schedule, and on my secondary Jeff Hoagland YouTube channel, you can find daily uploads of the best decks I've been playing. Now that I've played with and against a ton of the sweet cards that have released over the last couple of months, today's video here on this channel is going to give you a rundown on my thoughts about the power and position of all of those cards in Marvel Snap's current metagame. We're going to kick things off today with what is easily the most Jeff Hoagland card of everything to release during my absence, and that is Victoria Hand. This is a 2 energy scaling power card that works in a very unique way. I think they nailed the templating on this card. The fact that she specifically buffs cards that were created in your hand, meaning she doesn't go into things like Arishem or Thanos, and she's not overly pushed with things like Central Park and other locations that add stuff to the board. That being said, this card's been incredibly sweet and powerful. I'm someone who absolutely loves cards like Moon Girl and Hood, and being able to power those up with her feels quite potent. This card has also put Frigga on the map in a big way. A really potent curve with Victoria Hand is you Victoria on 2, you Frigga on 3, and then you have a second Victoria whose copied ability impacts herself, so she's at minimum a 2/7. Victoria into Frigga also fits really cleanly on turn 5 on your curve, which gives you a second Victoria to play out on the 6th turn of the game, which works excellent with my second favorite card from the last couple of months, and that is Moonstone. This is a card I honestly didn't think that much of when you look back at my reviews of her from originally being data mined, but I've been super impressed with her in the games that I've played. She feels like a must-have card inside of the Victoria hand decks I've been enjoying, because you play her out with Victoria and you get to double up her effect, and there's so many other good ongoings you can mix into that location as well. Ant-Man kicks Moonstone up to a 10 power thing, and they recently buffed Mr. Fantastic recently to be a +3 power to each of your side locations, so Moonstone gives you 12 power worth of stats if you play her and Mr. Fantastic out at the center location. She also is incredible in more dedicated ongoing decks where you can be doubling up things like speed and others to really strong effects. Next up, we have our most recent season pass card, Sam Wilson, Captain America. It's a 2/3 that has the ongoing effect you can move Cap Shield each turn, and it adds Captain Shield to a random location at the start of the game. The shield is a 1/1 that can't be destroyed, that whenever it moves to Cap's location, it gives that Captain +2 power. Notable thing about the templating on this is while this obviously buffs Sam Wilson, it also buffs the original Captain America as well, so under ideal circumstances, you can kind of ping pong it back and forth, giving +2 stats every turn. Enabling the other captain isn't the only thing this card does. I actually think Sam Wilson is subtly one of the most flexible enablers in Marvel Snap right now. Having an indestructible guaranteed 1-drop lets it enable Cull Obsidian. Having something that moves each turn with Sam Wilson lets you turn on Miles Morales. The shield is a card that didn't start in your deck, so it enables Mockingbird. It's 2 ongoing cards in one, so it's good with Spectrum. It fills 2 spots on your board, so it's good with Ant-Man and Captain America, and even things like Miss Marvel that demand lots of cards. I also think it's one of the most fair scaling 2-drops that we've had, because it has a very defined power output range. Even if you play Sam Wilson on turn 2, unless Limbo shows up, you're only going to move this shield to it twice, meaning under ideal circumstances, it ends up giving you 8 points of power if everything works out perfectly. I honestly think this is one of the best designs in the game currently. It's interesting to play, it's interesting to deck build around, and I never feel like it's incredibly unfair when I'm playing against it. January season's pass card, the Iron Patriot, is also one I've been absolutely loving. This is another 2/3 whose on reveal adds a random 4, 5, or 6 cost card to your hand, and then the following turn, if you're winning his location, he gives that card -4 cost. I absolutely love the dynamic that this card brings to the game. It rewards you for playing to the board early and punishes your opponent for not doing the same. This feels like a design that kind of accomplishes what a card like Alioth was always looking to do, but in a much less toxic way. It pays you off for proactively playing to the board as opposed to saving all of your cards for that big flourish on the final turn of the game. This card also has some fantastic synergies with other cards that I enjoy, such as Moon Girl doubling up your discounted card or Victoria Hand giving an extra 2+ stats at the end of the game. Rocket and Groot is a really solid on rate card that has synergies in things like Surfer because it's a 3 drop, but it also just has a pretty good stat line. It's usually not difficult to get your opponent twice over the course of the game with it, meaning it's typically at least 7 points of power for 3 energy, which is on or above rate, depending on how you think about that. Its ability to move around the board is not only self enabling for catching your opponent's cards, but it also allows you to slip into hard to reach places like Sanctum Sanctorum or Crimson Cosmos, while also enabling move things like Craven or Miles Morales in a pinch. Bullseye is a card that I actually haven't had a chance to play with yet personally, but I played against it a few times and it's definitely powerful. It spawned a brand new way to play the discard deck focused around Dakin and Collector and Frigga doubling those effects or Bullseye up so you can activate it once or even twice at the end of the game to give your opponent's board an absolute huge penalty. One of the places I still want to noodle on this is maybe working on it in a non-dedicated discard shell, because there's something deeply appealing to me about falconing a bunch of hoods and other useless 1-drops back to my hand at the end of the game and using them to depower my opponent's board. Thaddeus is a card that I've actually been pretty impressed with so far. It's a 2/2 that whenever your opponent has unspent energy, you get to draw a card with 10 power or more from your deck. One thing I would say is that this card is not good in decks like Scar, where you just want more 10 power things. In those decks, a lot of the time, rather than playing this, you'd rather just play another 10 power card to have more of them more consistently. The place where I've really liked Thaddeus is decks that are looking for specific cards that have those high points of power. In particular, I really love brewing with the card She-Hulk, and She-Hulk decks are always significantly better when they have their namesake versus when they don't. And in there, Thaddeus is essentially a second virtual copy of She-Hulk that we play out early, assuming our opponent's going to miss an energy spend at some point, giving us more consistent access to the card that our deck is built around leveraging. Lasher is a 2/2 who activates to afflict an enemy card at its location with negative power equal to its current power. While this isn't a metagame powerhouse by any means, I've had a ton of fun playing it in merge strategies with things like Agony or Penny Parker Spider, making it extra large so that way you can inflict a massive penalty. Lasher is effectively templated in a way that lets you double up any bonuses that you put onto it, which makes it an incredibly satisfying deck building payoff for a pretty nominal energy cost. Joaquin Torres is probably one of the cards I've been asked the most about on my thoughts, and I saved it for later in this video because I just don't think it's very interesting or good. This 3/4 that ongoing doubles up the on reveal of our 1 energy cards obviously looks like it should fit into bounce style decks that I enjoy playing, but there's a reason why those types of decks have never played a copy of Wong, and while this has slightly more power and costs slightly less energy, it's still really clunky to fit in on your curve. And with bounce effects like Beast and Toxin, it's awkward that you have to pick this back up along with the 1 energy cards that you play out. I think you'd much rather just have a different payoff and more flexibility about where you can play your cards out rather than telegraphing to your opponent where they should play their Cosmo to get the absolute max amount of value with it against you. Ares is a pretty boring card as essentially a 4/12 in the decks that are built around it to enable Scar, but it also sees plenty of play. It's not a card that I envision that I will play much with, but if you're someone that enjoys slamming big bombs, it's definitely super serviceable based on the numbers that we've seen. Finally, we have our most recent card release in Red Wing, a 3/4 that the first time it moves, it adds a card from your hand to the old location it was moving from. This card just seems really clunky and awkward in practice. It's essentially a 3 card combo. You need the Red Wing, you need a way to move it, and you need your hand to be entirely or mostly big things that you want to pull into play. So that way, going through all the effort to push this card around actually gets you a meaningful addition to the board. The stats surrounding it look pretty mediocre so far, and I expect this will just be another card that doesn't see or get talked about much once it's no longer new. While I did enjoy my time away, it's true that absence makes the heart grow fonder, and I've truly enjoyed my first couple of days back doing some snapping. I'm gonna be working it into my regular schedule on my live stream, and you can expect uploads to resume here at least a couple of times a week, as well as daily deck highlights, the youtube.com/Jeff Hoagland channel. Tomorrow, I'll be back with a review of the upcoming data mines for the next couple of months to give you my thoughts on cards that we have yet to see. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts on my breakdown in the comments down below. And if you happen to be new here, consider subscribing to the channel. We're making Marvel Snap stuff on the regular, so if you're into that sort of thing, you'll probably enjoy some of what we've got going on here. And I'd love to see you back again for the rest of the day. Have a great one.